Welcome to Financial Focus, brought to you by GulfCoast Financial Services founder and CEO, John Kuykendall. John and his team of financial, legal, and tax professionals have been providing North Florida savers and investors sound, comprehensive financial guidance for over 30 years, helping you to achieve important life and planning goals. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net.
And welcome into the program. This is Financial Focus, brought to you by the best of the best in financial services, as named by the readers of the Lake City Reporter, 8 years and running the team from GulfCoast Financial Services. Founder and CEO John Kuykendall here with us, and this year celebrating 30 years serving North Central Florida proactive savers and investors in achieving your financial and retirement goals, ladies and gentlemen. John, always a pleasure to have you on the program, providing the education and the proactive guidance that we need in order to form a better plan for a more confident retirement, a difficult challenge in this day and time.
Well, it really is, Peter. It gets more and more difficult every day. I thought that, it was, as I said, it wasn't easy to get old in the beginning of our podcast, but lately it's gotten more and more difficult, more and more regulation, more things we have to be worried about. We have to really make sure that we make the right decisions. And that's the majority of it, is making the right decisions as we go forward.
If you're going to get old, you gotta be tough, I think was the old song lyrics, right? But it I think is more difficult in today's modern retirement environment, where more and more of the burden of funding retirement is placed on our own shoulders than it was maybe a generation ago or 30 or 40 years ago. So we want to help in that effort, John, and you have brought along a 10-step checklist for preparing for retirement, breaking it down into 10 easy steps, at least easy to follow along with the steps. Going through them might take a little bit more work, but knowing what we need to do is kind of half the battle here. And so this checklist, I think, goes a long way in making sure that we've addressed all of the step-by-step topics and necessary protocol to prepare ourselves for that more confident retirement.
Well, that's right, Peter. And it's amazing to me as we look at retirement and we look at getting ready for retirement, so many people procrastinate and really don't take action ahead of time. And the first one on this list is define your budget. And everyone that comes in, just about, we ask them, okay, well, how much money do you need a month to live on? And very few of them can give me an answer. And so that's why it's so important when you start thinking about retirement 4 or 5 years ahead of time, you need to sit down and work up a budget on what your monthly expenses are going to be, and then look at your annual expenses. But then take it one step further, and that's go back and look at where you actually spent your money. Because, we think we know that we need, $2,000 for the mortgage payment and $400 a month for the utilities. But what about those little things that we forget about, like car maintenance and the things that we don't do every day, but are going to come into effect sometime during that year?
Yeah. I look at my spending, John, and I add up all my bills, and that's one number, and then look back at what I actually spent last night, or last month rather. Sometimes it is just last night, and that's a completely different number, right? And right. That's lifestyle. And unless we don't want to have a lifestyle in retirement, we probably need to account for that.
Well, that's true. I mean, and we think we don't spend a lot of money eating out, but we really do. I mean, the cost of eating out and the cost of living has gotten more expensive. And so we need to really see how we're spending our money and how much we're going to need in retirement, because that's going to make a big change in the second one, which is sources. Define your sources of guaranteed income. And, Peter, the reason we want to do this is because, as you said at the beginning of this, we're funding our own retirement now. We're our own 401k. Our own defined benefit plan. And during retirement, that check we're going to have to make up that difference between Social Security and whatever annuities or anything else we have coming in, and how much we're going to need to live on. And that's why we have to make sure that we understand how much guaranteed income we've got coming in. What are our options? Where are we going to get the money to live on so that we can have that kind of retirement that everybody wants.
And now we enter into the math equation here of figuring out retirement. We understand our spending and our budget. We have defined our sources of guaranteed income. Now we do a little bit of subtraction. Step number 3 is define our income gap. And John, this is the amount that our personal savings is going to need to be responsible to reliably generate for us on an ongoing basis to meet those living expenses.
Well, that's right. And as I said, we've got to make that up. So the difference between how much we've got coming in and on a guaranteed basis, month for month, year for year, and how much we're going to need has got to come out of our other buckets. And so we need to take that remainder of money and make sure that we understand how we can make it last. And, Peter, the market doesn't go up all the time. As we've seen.
We have seen that.
The market doesn't go up all the time. Now, in time, it will go up. But when you're retiring and you're living on that money that you have invested, we really have to make sure that in downtimes, we can still generate that kind of income and not run out of income before, at the end of our retirement. The last thing we want to do is reach a point where we can't go back to work part-time as a retiree and we don't have any money coming in.
Now here, John, is where we begin to massage the numbers a little bit. Step 4, strategize on Social Security, not just claim and collect Social Security, but strategize on it. We want to make the most out of that source.
Yeah, that's right, Peter. There's so many ways to file for Social Security. There's so many ways. While we changed the law several years ago that eliminated a lot of the great benefits to being able to file, there are still ways that we can file and have more income. And if we can postpone Social Security to age 70, it will give us a larger check that's guaranteed for life. And so certainly we need to look at all the different ways, find out what the maximum amount we can get from Social Security, and then run that computer program that's going to show us if we file today, how much money we're going to be giving up. When you go to Social Security, as I've said on this show many times, they're not there to tell you how to maximize your Social Security. They're there to take your order. They're there to file for Social Security, and they're going to file it and they'll give it to you. But we don't want to leave money on the table. People kind of overlook Social Security and they don't think about it enough, but it is a guaranteed income from the government coming in every month. Now, eventually we've got to do something with it because we're going to run out of money in 2033 to pay 100 cents on the dollar, but we'll still have enough to pay 77 cents on the dollar. And the government's going to do something. Unfortunately, I think we'll have a laddered Social Security so that if you have more money, you'll get less in Social Security. But that's something down the road and depends upon what the politicians do.
Yeah, and I feel like they could make more headway addressing that sooner rather than later, but that does not seem to be the approach that they are taking there in DC. That could probably be a whole nother series of programs and discussions, but we'll stick to the financial strategies and steps here. We are halfway through our 10 steps to prepare for retirement. Number 5, really the culmination of the first 4 steps. And something that you talk about often, John, the financially focused written retirement income plan. Number 5 is formulate your written retirement income plan.
That's right. What we do is we take all the factors that we've talked about and healthcare and everything else and taxes and put it into a plan that's written out that shows you how we're going to have to structure your nest egg so that we can guarantee you that it will give you an income coming in every month that's predictable, sustainable. So we need to take a look at that and do it as soon as possible because we may have to make some changes. We may have to work longer. We may have to do some restructuring now to give us the kind of income that we want. And that's why I really think that financial focused income plan is one of the most important key ingredients to filing for retirement. It gives you a roadmap, and we can't go anywhere nowadays without a GPS. I don't think you can buy a roadmap, but a GPS, and that plan will be your GPS to get you through that retirement period.
Well, once we've got that plan in place, we have to understand the different forces and factors that could affect or impact that plan. And that is step number 6, understand your risk exposure. John, on the surface level, when I say that and think about it, we're the market kind of comes to mind first and foremost, but there's so many other factors that could be considered in this important step number 6, understanding your risk exposure.
Well, that's right. It could be taxes. It could be legislative. It could be other things that are going to come into play between now and the end of your retirement. And certainly, long-term care is one of those risk factors that we tend to forget about. And, long-term care is a problem. John Hancock just announced a 40% increase in their premiums for next year. So, if you have a long-term care plan, it's how long are you going to be able to keep it? So we have to look at other ways to provide long-term care. I know that you sent me an article about the federal long-term care insurance plan, which has been suspended now.
Yeah.
No federal employee can apply for that plan for the next 24 months.
Yeah, the Office of Personnel Management. Basically, it's like the HR for federal employees, basically suspended all new applications for the long-term care that they had formerly offered and provided to federal employees. It's just another place where we have less and less choice or option or answer to this question, and another indication of how difficult a risk this one is to address, John. And you sent me back an article talking about different states that are talking about implementing some new layers of taxation in order to basically build some amount of support structure for the expenses of long-term care. But I think that regardless of what direction, these two articles are simply indicators of how large of a problem this one particular risk really is.
Well, the thing is that the article you sent me talked about the fact that John Hancock also handles that state, that federal program. And they've said that it's unsustainable, that they can't predict the risk. And so if it must be a huge risk, Peter, that we're really not thinking about. And, we're looking at the state, Medicare, Medicaid to take care of us. Medicare won't take care of it. And Medicaid is only able to do so much. And these states are implementing these taxes to help pay the state back for what they're spending on long-term care. And so, while there are alternatives today that work, that annuities and life insurance and things that we can use, that the sooner we do it, the better we're going to be, because we'll have more long-term care protection. Those are the kind of things that we've got to start looking at when we talk about risk. But, if we are a couple and one of us need long-term care, it can wipe out the retirement for the other one. And so it's not just, on the person that has the medical issue, it's also on the surviving spouse or the spouse left at home. So it's a huge problem, something we definitely need to look at.
Well, again, once we've gone through the first 5 and we've formulated that plan for retirement, then we have to understand the forces and the factors that can impact and affect the plan. Those are risks, right? Those things outside of our own control that can affect our outcome. That is risk. There are many different types. We've got to understand them, identify them, and then talk about how to protect the plan and ourselves against them. You mentioned another one. Now, I think that this is one that there is some possibility for some change into the future on, but calculating taxes. We need to know when we generate income, how much do we actually get to keep and spend? That is the next step in our 10 steps to preparing for retirement.
Well, that's right. And, and looking at the tax situation, it's in retirement, taxes are a huge situation because, up to 85% of our Social Security can be taxed, depending upon how much income we have. And that is determined a lot by the income we know we're going to predict we're going to have and our required minimum distributions, which are coming out of our deferred accounts. And so, one of the things we talk about is trying to do Roth conversions now so that that money can come out income tax free to help us strategize. We want to make sure that we have enough of a non-qualified account, that we can draw money out of it and help save the taxes by not having to pull all of it out of our qualified accounts, our IRAs, our 401ks. But we need to know what our tax situation is. We need to explain it to you so that you will understand what we're trying to do and how it's going to impact you in retirement, and make some changes now while we can.
Now, the next step here is one that could actually help us to better understand and in some ways control our tax liability. And despite what we have heard about not putting all of our eggs in one basket, may in fact improve diversification. And that may seem counterintuitive at a certain surface level, John, but consolidate like qualified accounts. Why is this a good step to take in our retirement readiness?
Well, for one thing, Peter, as you said, it helps us with diversification because, we can have 10 accounts out there and they can be in all kinds of different investments. But when we put them together, we may end up with a portfolio of investments that's 100% growth. Or it may be aggressive growth. It may not be what we want. It may be not what we need. We have other investment options that we can take and other ways that we can diversify and help save. But, I laughed when you started talking about this one because I'm always amazed at the number of accounts that people have and they never consolidate them. They forget about them. And then all of a sudden we'll be working on the plan and they'll come in and say, here's another account. I forgot I had this one. It was just sitting over in this drawer. And so we need to monitor and we need to, like I said, we need to determine the risk of all of those accounts so that we can be better diversified. Also, we have more investment options, Peter. And also cost. Don't forget about cost.
Costs, fees are important, diversification, not forgetting about things, right? If we forget things and leave them behind or ignore them, we may not be doing the routine maintenance things that we need to make the most out of those dollars. So like squirrels, stashing nuts for the winter, we need to know where our accounts are and bring them together for when we plan to utilize them. And then a big one that we've been hearing an awful lot about for the last couple years now, really, consider inflation. John, before about 2020, we actually didn't hear a whole lot about inflation.
No, we didn't, and we didn't see a lot of increase in our CPI for our Social Security because there wasn't that much inflation. And so, historically, inflation's run about 4%. We don't realize that back in 2008, inflation was fairly high. But because we've had this long run of markets going up and good times, people forget about inflation. But inflation plays an important part in your overall plan because as we have inflation over your retirement, you're going to need more and more dollars to live on, and we have to plan that inflation in our portfolio, in our income plan. There's no way that we can predict what inflation is going to be in the future, but we know that if you had a 3.5% to 4% inflation factor built into your plan, you're probably going to be fairly safe that over time that's going to be enough. But it'll make a significant difference in the amount of money that I'm going to need 20 years from now than what I need today.
And rounding home here, step number 10 is to review and update your legal documents and estate plan.
I can't stress this one enough, Peter. It's amazing to me the number of people that they get incapacitated, they have early dementia, they're in a car wreck, can't talk, or they pass away, and the loved ones are left with no documentation, no will, no power of attorneys, no estate planning whatsoever. We have a tendency to shy away from attorneys because we think they're expensive. But this is one item, one area that we can save money on in the long run by spending a little bit of money right now and making sure that we have the basic estate documents set up. Not everybody needs a trust. Not everybody needs fancy documents, but everybody needs a simple will, power of attorney, health surrogate form, and a living will. Those 4 documents are important. But I'm just amazed at the number of people I talk to that we have a problem and we've got to litigate because because we didn't do the situation right. I had a young widow with 4 children, and her husband had bought a piece of property in another state, put it in his name only. He got killed in a car wreck. There was no estate planning. So she ended up with nothing, lost all the money they put into the property while she was trying to litigate and get the property in her name. It's just amazing. Couldn't sell it, couldn't do anything with it. It's amazing to me that we don't think about the impact that this will have.
So important, ladies and gentlemen, and there you have it. Those are your 10 steps to prepare for retirement. You follow all of those 10 steps and you will go a long way to building a more comfortable, confident retirement. If you'd like the list to go over on your own time, or better yet, if you would like the help and assistance of a team of qualified, experienced professionals to move through these steps with you and help you formulate that plan and review and double check each item on it, pick up the phone and give GulfCoast Financial Services a call, 386-755-9018. That is 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. And John, people can contact you through the website as well, GulfCoastFinancial.net. And if they do call, you also have a copy of that great book for them, Financial Focus. Working on your second one now too.
Yeah, working on the second one. Hopefully be through with it fairly soon. But, this is a great list to work with, and it encompasses everything we do in the financially focused income plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, if you'd like the list to go over on your own, a great checklist of items to review and think about and address, or if you would like the help and assistance of John Kuykendall and his team there at GulfCoast Financial Services, best of the best in financial services, 8 years and running, as named by the readers of the Lake City Reporter, pick up the phone, give a call, 386-755-9018. That's 386-755-9018. John, as always, appreciate the time and great information that you shared here again on another episode of Financial Focus.
Thank you, Peter. Have a great week.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through GulfCoast Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. GulfCoast Financial Services, Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.